Oh, hey, I didn't see you there. I'm Eric Grodebois, and EPGD Attorneys at Law, or also known as EPGD Business Law, is happy to present another one of our video blog series. And this one's coming back from a blog post we did on July 5th, 2016. And these are the 10 steps to start your own business. Now, big caveat, this is going to be an oversimplification of a lot of broad issues. This is basically the thorough checklist that we need to go through every time we're setting up a real business. Not just setting up a little LLC or a corporation, not just doing a little business venture, but actually going through the steps as though we're going to start from nothing and end up with a functioning business. Okay? Now, we could elaborate. I could probably add another 20 or 30 steps, but these are going to be the big picture ones. Okay? So, you guys ready? Step number 1, make a business plan. What are you going to do? What are you going to sell? How are you going to make money? What are the 6 months, 1 year, 5 year, 10-year places where you will be and preparations you need to make? Okay? So obviously you don't need a lawyer to do that. In fact, there's a lot of software, that, at least there used to be. Now I'm sure that there's websites. In fact, you can retain a business plan writer if you like. I thoroughly suggest that you go online, you find an outline, and then from that outline, you do your best. As much as we can hire consultants and basically anybody in this world to do things for you, this is the one thing you really need to do for yourself. Okay? So how are you going to make money? So what we're going to do in this exercise is we're going to pretend like I'm starting my own law firm. Okay? So what's my business plan? My business plan is that I'm going to be a business lawyer. What I'm going to do is I'm going to market myself as somebody who's really experienced in contracts, corporate, other various business issues. I'm going to go out into the public, usually through the Chamber of Commerce, the Rotary Club, and BNI. I'm going to meet other professionals, particularly accountants. I like accountants and other lawyers. Those people are going to introduce me to potential clients. I will rent a small office space. It'll actually start off as a windowless closet. And what I'm going to do there with an old laptop and some borrowed furniture is I'm going to start developing clients, selling them on writing contracts for them, and then they will pay me money, and then I will go back out and find more clients. Okay, that was my business plan. I'm not even kidding, when I started. Okay, and I actually projected that within 1 year I would have 5 employees. And as a matter of fact, I had 4. I projected that within 2 years I would have 7 employees. As a matter of fact, we had 8. And after 3 years I would be at 10, and I'm actually right on track. I have 10 employees and we've expanded to almost 3,000 square feet. Okay, I actually wrote all that down. And you have to start planning, because if you're going to, for example, sign a 5-year lease, is that going to lock you in to where you can't grow past where you need to be according to the plan and the steps that you're going to put in place? Okay, so we could talk forever about business plan writing, but the idea is put something down on paper. A wise man once said to me, a terrible plan is much better than no plan at all. And frankly, you're always revising your plan. So this is just a rough draft. In fact, if you strive for a perfect plan, you'll never get started. So have a weak plan or a rough plan, and then put your steps in motion and get moving, because nobody's going to start your business for you. Okay, ready for step 2? Step 2, we need to think about your name. Okay, what are you going to call your business? This is the beginning of branding. So for branding, we're going to do logo, and then if you're going to think legally, we're going to talk about trademark. Okay, so my name was, I put my initials together and I put EPGD Attorneys at Law PA. Someone once remarked to me that the attorneys, the S there, was actually false advertising because I didn't have any other lawyers working for me. But on the day that they said that, I had actually hired a lawyer that morning, so they were a day late and $1 short. But then later on, truth be told, I came up with a different name. I thought of EPGD Law. It's simpler, it's shorter. And then what really bothered me was that you get these business cards for lawyers and they don't actually tell you what the person does, it just says attorney. And so I changed our name a second time, or I guess I created a third name, and this time it's EPGD Business Law. I wanted to be very clear for my marketing, and so this is an evolution. I think that my assistant Talia and I are on to maybe our 4th or 5th logo design for the firm. And it's okay. If you ever want to do something interesting, go to the United States Patent and Trademark Office website, uspto.gov, and go to the trademark section and search for Coca-Cola. You have any idea how many trademarks Coca-Cola has? And most of them are design marks, because there's only one word mark, but then they've got red, they've got gold, they've got blue, they've got the curly, they got so many, okay? So next, And you might think to yourself, why is this step number 3? Well, step number 3 is create the business online. Typically, or you can do it the old school way. You can sometimes fax in the forms to the Secretary of State, or you can you can mail it. You can even use couriers. And I could do a bigger discussion here on what state are you going to pick to start your company. So here in Florida, I picked Florida because I'm a Florida business. I could have picked Texas, where my mother's from. Maybe if I had planned, I could do a Delaware company. Now, it's a little different because I'm a law firm, so law firms have different rules about where exactly you can register. So clearly I did Florida because I'm a Miami law firm. But if I was starting a business selling shoes, I could have picked to be a Nevada company, for example. Nevada and Delaware are very popular. So once I've made that decision, typically with my lawyer, I'm going to decide, okay, you know what, for this one I'm going to do a Nevada company, and then I'm going to register it to do business in Florida, for example. Okay? Now, why is this step number 3? Well, it's because I had to come up with the name first. First I had to decide what I was going to sell, then I had to figure out what I was going to call it, and then now number 3, that's what I'm actually going to name it. Now, that's not always the way people do it. Sometimes I advise my clients to use a very generic name for the company. So the generic name could be Eric Investments Enterprises LLC, right? And then that company can own a trade name, or in Florida we call it a DBA, and that DBA could be EPGD Law, as a terrible example, but you see what I'm saying. So it could be Eric Investment Enterprises LLC doing business as Eric's Shoes, if I was selling shoes, for example. And then that DBA, I could have multiple. Maybe I have different locations, and each one I want to brand them a little bit different. We can go into a whole different discussion about whether or not we should set up subsidiaries with a holding company. Okay, you get the point. So step number 4, build your team of advisors. Okay, I typically say the first 2 things that every company should have is an accountant and a business lawyer. Okay, you need to sit down with an accountant. And now, what I mean by accountant, I do not mean someone who prepares your 1040, your annual income tax return, in the springtime. Yes, they might also be a competent business accountant, but I want to know somebody who has experience dealing with businesses. Typically, I'm looking for more of a full-service firm, even if they're boutique, that can handle payroll, that can handle bookkeeping, that can handle tax advising, that can actually tell me what are the advantages and disadvantages of being an S Corp or a C Corp, what kind of deductions should I take. We should have a meeting maybe 4 times a year where they can say to me, Eric, these are the steps you need to take to save money on your taxes. I love getting that phone call in November that says, hey, Eric, put a whole bunch of money into your self-employed pension, your SEP IRA, because this will save you a bunch of money on taxes. I didn't know that. That was great advice that I got from my accountant. So start building a team of advisors. Obviously, I'm my own lawyer, even though they have an old saying that says someone who represents themselves has a fool for a client. Well, frankly, I think even a lawyer needs a lawyer. So every company should start building their team of advisors and start with the accountant and the business lawyer, okay? The business accountant and the business lawyer, okay? Next, step 5, this one usually gets brushed under. It's pretty straightforward. We're gonna get the tax ID number, okay? Tax ID number is the actual, it's called a Federal Employer Identification Number, or the FEIN. Sometimes people just call it the EIN. I've even heard people use the redundant, my EIN number, even though N already stands for number. This is the number that you're going to use to open up your bank account. Okay, it's also the number you're going to use when you issue W-9s to any of your clients that are going to insist on issuing you a 1099 at the end of the year. It's also where you're going to use when you have your employees. Okay, obviously it's very useful. A couple quick footnotes. If you change the name of your company, you need to update the IRS so that they know that the name is associated with the correct EIN. If you change the form of your company, for example, sometimes LLCs convert to corporations and vice versa. The IRS has very specific rules, which you can find in the instructions for the Form SS4, that will tell you whether or not you need to get a new EIN. I was about to say EIN number. I promise. Okay, so after you get your EIN, you can go and open your bank account. But I'm going to save that step for step number 8, okay? Step number 6, you need to start thinking about your licensing and permits, okay? Where are you going to open your business? In my case, I opened in Coral Gables, Florida. Well, guess what? Coral Gables is a suburb of Miami, even though it's surrounded by Miami. And so we're in Miami-Dade County, and we're in the city of Coral Gables. Well, in my circumstance, it requires 2 licenses. I need to have a business license for the county of Miami-Dade, and for the city of Coral Gables. So there's a couple different steps that have to go into. Now, if I was just in another part of just the city of Miami, I might only have to get 1. So what you want to know is you want to look at what are the local rules for where you're going to be doing business. Now, the obvious thing to do is have a business lawyer who knows these things. Now, most of the licensing and permitting you can do yourself, but maybe it's worth your time and money to do something more valuable, and you can hire your lawyer to do it for you. Okay? I know a lot of accountants that offer this service as well. And in fact, this is one example where it is not an authorized practice of law for your accountant to offer to help you obtain your licenses and permits. But you should check what is your industry, what is your county, what is your city, what is your state, and then find out what specific licenses and permits you may or may not need. Obviously, to own a law firm, I must be a licensed attorney. To be a barber, you might need to be a licensed haircutter. And there's a lot of other licenses and then many other permits. Okay, so just be aware. And I have seen two things. I have seen where the county and or the city is very nice, and the county and or the city says to the business owner who has somehow neglected to obtain a business license for many years, don't worry, there's no penalty, just do it right from here on out. And I've seen it where there's an actual penalty and a quite hefty fine. So better safe than sorry, I say. At least be aware so that the day that they do come knocking on your door, you're not caught completely off guard. Okay? So step number 7, this adds to the team of advisors. You need a business insurance professional. Okay? Your business insurance professional can do multiple things. First of all, you need to know if you have workers' comp insurance, depending on your jurisdiction, for when you have employees and once you pass a certain number of employees. Another thing is you might... All right, so we got cut off because one of my associates decided to call in the middle of recording. We need one of those blinking lights outside of my door that says, leave us alone, we're recording online. So basically, I was saying step number 7, add an insurance professional to your team of advisors. You want to look into insuring your physical property. You want to look into having workers' comp insurance. You might want to start talking about health insurance. As you might know, after 50 employees with Obamacare, you've got to offer it. But a lot of businesses want to offer it to entice the best talent. Another thing to look at is if you're a business owner, disability insurance, perhaps life insurance, depending on your family situation. Also, these are all great things to discuss with your clients, depending on what you're selling, especially my clients since I'm a business lawyer. And also, how about data protection, data breach insurance? All my stuff's in the cloud. So I have insurance to insure my firm in case there's a data breach and my clients are negatively impacted. Okay? Now you want to check with your jurisdictions to see if there's actually specific laws on that, and depending on what state you're in. Okay, so now I've got my lawyer, I've got my accountant, I've got my insurance agent, I've written a business plan, I've picked the name of my company or my fictitious business name, I've created the company after picking the state and deciding whether I'm going to be an LLC or a corp or whatever the other options are. I've gotten my tax ID number, I've looked into my licenses and permits. I think I'm running out of fingers, but I've already just worked out my insurance. And technically, step number 8 is we're finally going to go out to the bank and open the bank account. Now, some of these steps can be reversed in order. Now, here's my advice. Add a banker to your team of advisors. While as much as I love the big bank, the Wells Fargo right there that I went to when I opened my bank account when I started my company, if anyone from Wells Fargo is watching, hi, you should be working. But actually, I prefer a small banker. A business banker, a community banker. I have my banker's cell phone number and I text him all the time, even on the weekends. It's cool because we're friends, but I tell you what, we're friends because he's so great to me as a professional, helping me out. People say, well, why don't you use a big bank? In fact, I'm only aware of one location of my local banker's bank. As long as they have online banking and an app on my phone, and as long as it's convenient for my secretary or my assistant to drop off the checks every once in a while, or if you have a really good banker, they'll even come by your place of business to collect them for you. I would rather have the personal relationship where I can, just like I can pick up the phone and call my lawyer, my accountant, and my insurance advisor, I want to be able to call my banker. And it's really great, especially once your business starts growing, to look into having a line of credit because, I do not use the line of credit to run the business. I have the line of credit in case I need it. In fact, I hope I never have to dip into the line of credit, but if it comes a month where I need to make payroll, I'd rather still be able to pay myself and my employees and just dip into the line and then pay it back on the next month when things are better. Okay, so in fact, that was my next step, was to actually apply for loans or be ready to, and also talk to your accountant about the accounting situation. Make sure that you are being taxed in the right way. Now, typically you have up to 90 days after you create your LLC or your corporation to decide if you're going to be taxed as an S Corp or a C Corp or the default pass-through taxation for an LLC. These are the different options. These are the conversations you should have, okay? And then last but not least, it's time to prepare your workspace. Where are you gonna work? Are you gonna work out of your home at your kitchen table? Personally, I don't recommend it. I like getting up in the morning, shaving, putting on a suit, putting on a tie, and going a place where I feel professional. I'm sitting upright. There's no ways that I can procrastinate around the house with chores and errands. In fact, I'm here to get a job done. And so I highly recommend, even if it's a virtual office, or in my case, well, you know what I did, is I shared office space with a complementary business. Someone who didn't compete with me, but who had similar types of clients to where they could refer work that they didn't do to me. Now that works really well with lawyers, and maybe a lot of other of the service-based professionals and business professionals, but also what part of town are you going to be in? How much furniture do you need? How many computers do you need? What are the actual steps? Now this is going to go back into your business plan, and in fact, if you think about it, everything I've said so far today should be a step in your business plan. And so at the end of it, where are we going to finally get down to business? For me, I was happy enough to have a friend give me that first space, and it was actually about 45 feet that way, and I walk by it all the time, and someday I'm going to hang a plaque and say it all started here. And so anyways, if you've been still watching, those are the 10 steps, what you should do if you want to start a new business. A lot of things we can talk about on other days, but for Eric Rodabois and EPGD Law, thank you very much, and hopefully see you next week.